Welcome to Study Loop.
One way to answer a lot of equations like this is graphically, or at least to check your answers if you are doing them by hand. I'm going to do all of the ones in radians first. So let's do A. Here's what I mean by this if you're not familiar. You can do the square root of 2 sine 3x minus 1. We want to know when is it equal to 0? Well, that's when it crosses the x-axis at pi over 12 is the first one. B has x, so that's in radians. So that's negative 2 cosine or in degree mode 2x. And then if it's equal to square root of 3, you can just subtract the square root of 3, and then you're equal to 0. Look at the x-axis. That's 5 pi over 12 for the smallest non-negative answer. Again, 5 pi over 12. C and D I'll come back to. Let's go to E and F since they're in radians. So E is 2 square root 3 sine of x over 2. And then we'll subtract 3 so that we're equal to 0, and it's 2 pi over 3. F is 2 square root 3 times the cosine of x over 2, and then we would add 3 so that we're equal to 0, 5 pi over 3. Now I'll do I and J. For I, it's sine 2x. And then if it's equal to 2 cosine squared x, we'll just subtract 2. Now the way you do this in a calculator is cosine x squared. You're squaring the cosine. And we're subtracting that so that we're equal to 0, and that happens at pi over 4. J is 3 cosine squared of x over 2, so it'd be 3 cosine of x over 2, but then that will need to be squared, and then we're going to subtract 2 secant x. If you don't have a secant button, then it's 2 over 1 over 2 times 1 over cosine x. And that would be, if we need to be to 4 decimal places, 0.7101. Okay, now we'll go back and do the rest in degrees. So what we'll do is change the calculator to degree mode, and then I know I want to be from 0 to 360 on the x's. Just to get one full period, and then we can start graphing. And so the first one is cosine of x over 2, and then we'll do minus 1. And so that is at, let me do this from negative 90 to 450, just to give me some space. So at 0, this is a solution. And that is non-negative. In D, sine of x over 2 equals 1. So I'll just change this to sine and that would be at 180 degrees. For G, 2 sine x, and then we'll subtract 2 cosine 2x. And that's at 30 degrees. For H, cosine x minus 1, and then we'll subtract cosine 2x. And that's at 60 degrees for our first solution. For K, 2 minus sine 2x, and then we'll subtract 4 sine 2x. For a solution, to the nearest tenth would be 11.8 degrees. And our last one, 2 cosine squared of 2 theta. So cosine 2x, but then we'll need to wrap that and square it. Then it's cosine squared. And we'll subtract 1 and then add cosine 2x. Of 2 cosine 2x squared minus 1 plus cosine. I would say 0, but you might also say 30, but the first non-negative would actually be 0.